Entonces ahora pasaríamos a nuestro taller o a nuestro panel pregrabado. Si ven que me cambié de camiseta, no es porque me fui a cambiar, sino porque lo hicimos en una hora alternativa por los horarios de los panelistas. Y en verdad les recomiendo mucho que se queden. Fue una gran conversación. Aquí vamos a empezar a transmitirlo también de una hora, así es que gracias por seguir acompañándonos y adelante. Good afternoon and good evening, depending on where in the world we all are. Thank you so much for being here with us in this launch of the Startup Cities Week, and specifically for the Transparent City panel. And so today I would like to welcome our three speakers. We will be listening to Dr. Zhang Song Huang. He's a master planner of Korea's National Pilot Smart City, Busan EDC. He is an ICT strategy expert who served in a number of key positions in the IT policy planning in distinguished organizations. Currently, he's a senior researcher at the National Information Society Agency. We will also be listening to TT Wang, CEO and co-founder of Bunmi Lab Company Limited, a human-centered design, technology, and data lab based in Bangkok, Thailand, co-founder of elect.in.th, a civic tech for Thailand's democracy and election. He's also CEO and co-founder of Upin Co. Limited, a startup providing AI-powered customer service, SaaS for enterprise and city. And finally, we will be also listening from Federico Fernandez. He is the executive director of Somos Innovación, the Latin American Alliance for Creativity and Innovation. He's senior fellow of the Austrian Economic Center based in Vienna, Austria, and president of the International Fundación Bases based in Rosarito, Argentina. Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here with us.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Thank you for bringing me here.
Well, we will each first start with a small presentation on the issues so that our listeners can know a little more of who you are and what you do. So we'll have about 8 minutes to talk to our audience on these issues. And so some of the main questions we're going to be talking about today will be on the pandemic as proof that governments are more productive and empower their citizens with the right transparent information available online. Beyond COVID-19, how do smart cities empower citizens through transparency and co-governance? And I'm sure each of you will be diving deep into a variety of issues around this whole smart cities concept and the principle of transparency. So without further ado, I would like to pass the word first to Mr. Huang Zhang. You have a presentation, right?
Yes. So then, can I start now?
Yes, okay. Please.
Okay, then. So this is my presentation. So Korea have maintained the COVID-19 cases on the 100. So it is better than other country. Some people think Korea was a success. Korea is successful in dealing with the COVID-19. Anyway, so far Korea have done well. One of the factor that contribute to Korea's performance is our experience of a MERS outbreak in 2015. So in 2015, MERS is similar to coronavirus hit Korea. When Korea was hit by MERS first, Korean government has made many mistakes, including the decision to keep all information secret for fear that open information might make people kind of panic. So government close information. But as you can see the graph, so the case has Korea government failed to contain the spread. So after the Korean president ordered to open up all data, then Korea government can stop the spreading. So this was very valuable experience for Korean people. So we have learned many lessons from MERS outbreak 2015. So one of the big lesson was the value of open data. And another one is the value of balanced approach between personal privacy and the public interest. In Korea, so we have a very strong regulation to protect personal information. But Korean people realize in some cases we need to compromise the personal privacy with the public interest. So right now, this experience made Korea government to use actively ICT, information and communication technology in our fighting against COVID-19. So one of the system is EISS, or Epidemic Investigation Support System, which is to trace infected person, also trace infection route by analyzing mobile data and credit card data, among others. But one important thing with EISS is that this system was not developed from scratch. So the government developed this system very quickly. Less than 2 weeks. It was possible because EISS system rely on already developed smart city data hub. So government developed smart city data hub, which connect many different kinds of data from different sources. So EISS system was just rely on such kind of data platform. So Korea government quickly respond to the crisis with information system. This is just one case that shows the value of a platform-based approach. So I'd like to back to the very basic question: what is a smart city? Smart city is a city that providing many smart services, or smart city is a city with platform that enable innovation, including developing smart services. So the reason I propose this basic question is because many people understand the smart city from the final result. So I mean, some people understand the smart city as a city with smart governance, smart transformation, smart something. But so it is not wrong, but there is another way to understand the smart city. I'd like to call it city as a platform approach. So instead of understanding smart city solves urban problem directly, we can understand the smart city help each domain solve their problem. So a smart city support transportation area, smart city support energy, and even smart city support government to work better. government to work smarter. So, with by using smart city, we can make a smart government. Smart government is quite basically fundamentally different from electronic government, e-government. E-government focus on process optimization, but smart government focus on the final result, the decision, focused on decision. So I can say like this: e-government make government do things right, but smart government make government do the right thing. So in order for smart government to be smarter, to make government smarter, or we need a new infrastructure. So data and platform, and there are many other infrastructure. And smart city provide those resources and those infrastructure that smart government need. So I think in many countries, CCTV data and also many smart card or other smart technology service improve not only public service, but also improve the government working by providing more and more data and more infrastructure to government, make better policy and provide improved service. I personally in charge of designing new national pilot smart city in Busan. So our pilot project have the vision to make augmented city. We understand the smart city as an augmented city. Smart city augment government, smart city augment citizen based on many technology, among others, digital technology, AR, VR technology, and robotics technology. These technologies improve government working, or so each citizen's capability. So we set three strategies to make in order to make augmented city. First one is a platform-based approach. Our goal is not just sharing data. Our goal is to sharing all kinds of resources. Second strategy is to make kind of is our word, our expression, new CPS, so cyber physical society. So merging cyberspace and real space together, and by doing this, we can increase the cognitive power of each citizen and the government and other domain. Finally, final strategy is to make a robot-friendly city. Robotics technology will allow us to do many things that we cannot do before. But the problem is that the current city is not designed for robots. So our third strategy is to redesign city itself. So for robot use. So if we make robot-friendly city, then the government can not only make right decision, but also provide better action, or better service using robotics and other technology. That's it. Thank you for your listening. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huang. This is great. I think our audience in Latin America, who most of their cities are barely starting to venture onto all these digital and smart city components. I think the way you presented it, from the basics of what a smart city is, and especially like the focus on helping governments be smarter. But then the platform, everything you guys have achieved and worked for is great. I think this will be very insightful for everyone starting on the process in Latin America. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we will be definitely asking you a lot more questions soon. We will now go to Titi. Please, if you could share a couple words with us. Do you have a presentation? Oh, you are still in mute.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm okay now. You hear me, right?
Yes.
I don't have any presentation, so I'm just like improvise, basically sharing like my experience here. Maybe sharing what's going on in Bangkok and Thailand from this part of the world to you guys, and also touch a little bit on the smart city part. For me, like actually my position is not from the government, kind of like being on the startup side and who's working on data and technology and also design. And also one part of me is also kind of touch because I'm the advisor of the Institute of Public Policy and Development as well. So kind of be there to provide the strategy for the data-driven policy development and stuff like that. So in terms of talking about COVID-19 from here, Bangkok, I think we doing very well because since I don't know how many days, but we don't have any more infected patient in Thailand for quite a long time, and but also we also do some economic research about like the kind of policy that the country choose to do to stop the COVID-19, which is actually quite strict. So we basically run on a lot of like strict rules to lock down everything, and also the martial law throughout the country to really want to stop this thing. But we suffer a lot in terms of economics, like compared to Korea. Korea is somewhat more open than in Thailand. Like some of the business can run quite like all the time, basically. But in Thailand, like actually my office is located in the center of the let's say the red light district. Like it's called Patpong in Thailand. So just look around, like actually the business is not coming back. They're closing for probably 6 months already, and they postpone the rent. They're not coming back. The workers already go back to their countryside, and I don't see it coming. It's gonna be quite a long time, and as well as the travel, like tourists is not coming to Thailand, and that is kind of like a major revenue of the country. So basically we fine in terms of the health, but we are not fine in terms of economics based on the COVID-19. So let's see, we have to fight for that. I'm lucky that my business is not really affected by the COVID-19 because I'm not in service industry. But a lot of service industry are in really a serious problem. So talking about kind of narrow down to what government giving the citizens, like open data or any things like technology or smart things for me or for the people to understand what's going on. It's somewhat in a closed door. They are mostly directed by the central government, what they're going to do, and the plan and the strategy of that. Me as a citizen don't really have the way to actually express or participate to any kind of policy that they want to do. So basically we just complain about what's going on, and in terms of the data, it's kind of not really reviewed, like who's getting infected, who's not. Like let's say compared to Korea, on the website you can see like how many people and where did they go and where did they meet, right? So I kind of follow the Korean case a lot. So, but in Thailand, we don't have that kind of thing. Like it just like come from the media, like the announcement from the government that, okay, we have this guy and we are not reveal where he is or who he is and blah, blah, blah. But they send the team to kind of just do the job. So something like that. So I would say right now, people are not, like the topic of COVID-19 is really about the economics, not really about the data or anything. Right now, they're more serious about like, where are we going? And talking a lot about the resilient things, you know, like how can we like adapt from this situation, because it's not going to be better soon. And so in terms of smart city, I would say that I would love, because I'm not the government, so I would love to open a conversation right now that we are expect to experience this kind of situation more, maybe more often, like disaster, like disease and stuff like that. So how can city evolve to react to this stuff like easy, like the better next time? So I think that it's a really good time that the city like think about this really hard and really prepare something like, for example, like an open platform that not just I think for me, the government needs to the government will get smaller and smaller, and the people needs to come in and kind of join the force to run the city together. So the government should propose something like an open platform to open for the public participation. So this kind of stuff, like how can we get the information from the citizen faster than before, or even like more data than before, and react with it very fast. So because like in terms of Thailand situation, it's really centralized, and basically the policy is like are developed by a group of people with a very limited data in the central. So I think in the future, we want to decentralize those stuff and get more local data and get more like build up the team to analyze this kind of data outside of Bangkok as well, so that we can kind of react with this situation, not really waiting for the prime minister only, but also like those cities can just react by themselves. One of the good example here is that when actually in Thailand, like the provinces outside of Bangkok, they actually govern and kind of try things, this and that by themselves at the end, because they cannot wait for the resources from the central anymore. The central government are too, like, react too slow to what is going on their local area. So basically the mayor or the governor, they kind of secretly like implement their own way to kind of fix the problem in there and that area as well. So there are a lot of talk about like decentralize this power to other cities. So I think maybe that is also one of the factors that smart cities should have. Like it's not centralized, but decentralize the opinion, decentralize the policy to make the local can govern by themselves, something like that. I think that's all that I want to share right now.
Thank you very much, Titi. I think everyone in Latin America can identify we are going through very similar things. And I dare to say that the way our governments have handled this have been similar. And so we can definitely learn a lot from examples like Korea, but we will definitely have to work together with other countries going through the same things. And the economy here is also struggling very much. So we have big challenges coming soon. Thank you very much. And now I would like to let Federico please share with us a couple of your insights on smart city and transparent city issue.
Thank you, Marco. And well, firstly, thanks to Elizabeth and thanks to the Naumann Foundation for the invitation to be part of this panel and of the Smart City Week. I'm very happy and honored. It's also a privilege, and it was a pleasure to listen to my fellow panelists before me. And I'll try to use my 8 to 9 minutes to talk about the experience of a small country, not that well known in Latin America, but it should be, I think, more relevant, and we could learn a lot from it, and that country is Estonia. I won't be talking much about the COVID-19 situation because I am from Argentina, and in Argentina we are probably going to end up this situation as the worst economy performance and the worst health and sanitary performance. So with that, I don't want to, let's say, depress you with the situation. And I'll go to something a little bit nicer. Before I talk specifically of the Estonian experience, allow me to do a quick detour, let's say, on the history of Estonia, because I think it's very important to understand what's going on in the country nowadays. Well, Estonia is a country by the Baltic Sea in the north of Europe. It's a small country. Population-wise, it's less than 1.5 million inhabitants. In 1940, and due to the notorious Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, Estonia, along with the other Baltic states, Lithuania and Latvia, were invaded and annexed by the Soviet Union, with all the catastrophic situations that this brought on these countries. Finally, in 1989, things started to change in the country, and in 1991, the country got its independence back. To talk about what's going on in Estonia, there's a name that we have to mention, and that is the name of Mart Laar. He was, in 1992, he was appointed as Prime Minister of Estonia. He was only 32 years old. He was a historian by training. And he claims that he had read only one book about economics in his lifetime. That book was Free to Choose by Milton Friedman. Luckily, it was a good book. He says that, he liked what he read, and he said, let's implement it. Let's do it. Just do it. That's his motto, like the shoe brand. What did they do in Estonia? Well, very, very quickly. What they did is the following. They re-established the rule of law and the property rights. That was very basic, and they really cared about that. They took seriously the fight on corruption, and eventually they defeated it. They opened the country to free trade. They privatized most of the economy, and they established a flat tax, which, by the way, with the years, the rate was declining. Why I mention all this? Because in order to understand what's going on in Estonia today and the kind of things I'm going to describe you in a few minutes, we have to understand that this liberalizing spirit, this reform classical liberal spirit, is the cornerstone of every transformation that happened in Estonia. Because I think we would be committing a mistake, we would make a mistake if we, let's say, trust in some sort of technological redemption. Technology is, and e-government in this case, is a tool, a very sophisticated tool, but it's a tool, and as such, it depends how and why we use it. And this is very important to understand the Estonian situation and what's going on. And why Estonia is so exceptional, and why I am speaking about Estonia today. Well, if we, let's say, just to define very, very briefly what e-government is basically the use of IT, of information technology, while providing public services. We are in the year 2020, probably most of, even every government on the face of the earth uses somehow of information technology to provide services. But where's the catch? What's what the Estonians have done so well? What they did is that they used e-government technology not in the framework of existing administrative structures, but as a very powerful tool to radically change and simplify those structures. This is, again, and that is why I mentioned this classical liberal framework, this cornerstone of the reforms. This was never an idea to, let's say, make the state more efficient. In a way it is, but it was to put the state at the service of the citizens. And that is what they did, and this is based upon the classical liberal reforms that they started to implement in the 1990s. And this is the mindset, let's say, of what they did, and this is why it's so important. And what did they do? Very briefly, 99% of bureaucratic proceedings in Estonia can be done digitally. The only exceptions are getting married, getting divorced, and buying property. What does a digital proceeding mean according to the Estonian government? Well, it's a fully end-to-end digital proceeding. This means no phone calls, no paper trail whatsoever, and no visits to any office, physical office at all. Some of the results of this is that yearly the Estonians save 844 years that they would devote to bureaucracy had they not have the e-government tools that they have. To understand this, a year has 8,760 hours. The Estonians, thanks to the e-government services they have, they saved approximately 7,394,000 hours per year. Hours that they can devote, for more research, to invest in a new company, to create a new company, or to go to, for holidays to the Caribbean, whatever they want. Another thing that gives us a lot of perspective, and from which in Latin America particularly we could learn a lot, just with the possibility of signing documents online digitally, thanks to a smart ID that every Estonian has, they claim that they save 2% of GDP every year. In countries like Colombia or Argentina, that would be roughly $8 billion per year. To change your address in Estonia, you need approximately 2 minutes. And the thing that made Estonia extremely famous across the globe, you can open a company in 18 minutes. I honestly think is faster, but that's the official number, and that's why I'm telling you, in any case, 18 minutes is an absolute world record. Another very important aspect of e-government in Estonia, and that is very much related to the underpinning I mentioned before, is the feature of so-called truth by design. And this basically means that it is individuals and companies who are who own their data, and they decide who can access that data. Everything is based upon consent. And in fact, if any citizen of Estonia goes to estonia.ee, he or she can see who can access that data, and they can change it, of course. This is very important, of course. For many people, for instance, it's extremely important that a doctor can access your medical data if you were in an accident and you have some sort of previous disease that should be taken into consideration. But this is only with the consent of the citizen, never imposed upon them. And just in the last 30 seconds, and I will mention it because I'm about to turn my 10 minutes, the cherry on top of this system is the so-called Estonian e-residence program, which very briefly brings access to all the economic rights that an Estonian citizen have to anyone around the globe. Thank you very much for your attention.
Wow, thank you very much. That is a very interesting and very useful example that many countries in Latin America should really look more into. Maybe I want to follow up with you, Federico, a little more, because so the challenge facing many countries in Latin America today might be similar to what Estonia was facing when they started this process, especially from the corruption perspective and the way our institutions have had a challenge trying to reform the trust in government and in the institutions. How do we start? And you mentioned the case from the property rights and the institutional framework, but how do we start the conversation, or how do we involve the people, citizens, around this idea, which can be transformative for good or for bad?
Well, I think your question, Marco, is very interesting, and probably I don't have a definite answer for it. I think in certain ways in Latin America there are interesting trends happening, and they are very encouraging. And I think slowly but surely, and in some countries not that slowly, this demand, let's say, for a different kind of administration, for a different kind of relationship between citizen and state, or citizen and government, are already there. So we really have to, let's say, to keep those trends going. In any case, and there are some cases, like Peru, Paraguay, that have changed a lot. There are some attempts in Honduras, for instance, to implement some of these measures. There are many things happening. And I think the key issue that we should, let's say, use to engage people in this kind of discussions is exactly that. The example of Estonia shows us many things. One of them is that in Latin America, we don't have the monopoly of problems, because sometimes we believe that, nothing can be solved because we have all the worst problems in the world, and it's not like that. Other parts of the world have had horrible problems, and most of them have overcome them. We have to get inspiration, let's say, by this example, see that it's possible, and see also that it's not going to take 100 years to solve our problems, or a millennia. So there's these examples, and Estonia is not the only one, but I think should be taken as a, let's say, as a way of signaling that there's hope, and it's not impossible. And some other peoples have solved problems similar or even worse than ours.
I agree. Definitely, it gives us hope for change. And I also want to follow up with Titi on a related issue, because as Titi was expressing on the COVID challenge with Thailand, and how maybe the government efforts have not been quite what was expected, or like other examples have done. But from the startup perspective, Titi, how can companies then, or citizens, through technology and through all these digital tools that we now have in business and in society, how can we help create the solutions that are required, both for challenges like the disease, but also for everything else that we often want the government to solve? And now it seems that many times startups are solving for us, right? So what has your perspective been there?
Talking about okay. Talking about Thailand, I'm not sure. Maybe we have maybe the situation the same as in the Latin America, in terms of like people are losing trust in, like you said, in government, in institution and stuff like that. Maybe the problem of corruption and so on. And it's, for me, my perspective about this is to, as a citizen, we shouldn't wait anymore, like until like the government do things right. Like Professor said, we in my country, we want to change it. We want to get our hands dirty and trying to involve even before the government like start to move. Like for example, I think I have to trace back from 2019. Like we had the national election. The first time after like 5 years of military coup under the dictatorship. So we had that election, and we set up like I set up the team and the volunteer to actually work on the political open database that actually provide the important data for the people to make decision for the election, and also have like data stories, data visualization to trying to communicate. And we build up tools for people to just support the maybe younger generation who's like hungry for data, who want to make the right decision for the next government, stuff like that. Like all those kind of innovation, we just do it for free, and we, with the help of like developer and designer that join us, probably like 50 to 60 people. And it's still running until today. Even the election is done, and right now we almost like the end of 2020, and this became more and more like an institution. Like let's say the civic movement in Thailand, we call it elect. So we get the funding, and we do more stuff. We now get deep into the parliament, going to the politician, and like kind of showing data of, like for example, showing what they're voting for in the parliament, and did they come to the meeting or not, stuff like that. And so those things for the developed country, they might think, oh, isn't that the infrastructure that the government should provide? Like, isn't that already has to be there? Those kind of things is not exist in my country, and we have to kind of act to make the move, to make the change by our society. So that is one of the examples. But the good thing is, when we showing the government our capability, they later kind of invite us. So I'm also in the committee of the reform of the digital parliament in Thailand. So they kind of invite us to sit there and give them advice on what to do things. But yeah, I mean, even though I still think that the government will move very, very slowly if they don't like change. I think, yeah, like Frederick said, it needs radical change. It's not like, oh, they're gonna just like use this software, they're just gonna open the data warehouse and I don't know, get some new project. Like in Thailand, it's not gonna change like that. We need to actually reform the whole government, like how they do things, the process, the mindset, so many. And I think we are on the process of doing that. Maybe the change will come sooner than later, I think.
Okay, thank you. And I also had a question for Dr. Huang. I was very interested in the concept of the augmented city. And it seems like maybe we can use the Korean example, both for all these example for countries in Latin America and even Thailand that are aspiring to improve the infrastructure. And it seems that the Korean case has a very big advance in the infrastructure for the technology and the systems and the institutions around, especially on the concept of the augmented city. And you said you were working on the platform-based city, the cyber-physical society, the robot-friendly city, and these are all very interesting concepts. Perhaps my question for you would be, how can cities involve the citizens in, or how do these technologies and these infrastructures empower or improve the life of everyday citizens? not just governments, right? Because I understand the concept of the smarter government, but how can we use these maybe as citizens in our everyday lives? Oh, you're in mute. You're still in mute.
Great. Okay, that's very good question. So augmented city. So actually, the main target is a citizen. So the reason why we develop augmented city concept is to bring the benefit of a smart city or other smart technology to a citizen. So far, many technology contribute to city operation, government operation, and the business operation, but very little benefit goes to a citizen. So what we are trying to build is a new environment that not only the organization, big players, but also each individual citizen can get benefit. So I talk about robotics technology. So Korea and many other societies now getting into aging society. So we have more and more aged people. Aged people cannot move freely. They have a problem in their the physical movement. So we want to develop the robotics technology that help those people. But don't misunderstand. Those robot in this context, robot is not so fantastic robot. I mean a very simple function robot that support bring the heavy, so how to something to help those aged people to bring heavy things, and also AR VR also help people to AR VR to augment cognitively. So let's think about navigation. So I think most of you use navigation when you drive. So navigation increase your ability, your capability to find the route very significantly. You will not get lost even in a city you have never been before. So technology augment people cognitively. So we want to make a new city that even foreigners who cannot speak Korean have no difficulty in live those cities. And also we can make a city that even those people without a specialized training can get some job to fix some facility, because AR VR technology can help those people. One thing I'd like to stress is that you talk about a very advanced technology, but if you take a close look at those technologies, it is not advanced technology. The key is not technology. The key is a platform and the relationship between technology. So Federico talked about Estonia case. In Estonia case, the core is the technology. The core is platform that connecting all database together and connecting all process together. So we can make augmented. I think any city in Latin America can make augmented city by connecting different kind of platform. So all cities now use many type of platform, but those platforms are now working as a silo. But if we connect those silos, Federico talked about the beauty of Estonian government. We can make Estonian government style cities, and also robot technology So just to remove barriers. So we can make robot to support us, so and deliver something, or robot help one-person shoppers to operate their shop very efficiently by just remove the remove of all barriers around the city. So those things can do any city. So based on those innovation, so we can expect more and more very basic robotics or other technologies can be deployed into the city. So that is what we want to do in Korea, and that's why the Korea government started national pilot smart city to shows the feasibility of so augmented the city. Okay.
That's great. So it's not technology per se. It's just a platform. I would even go as far as to say it's a little bit of the political will to get all the actors together, and the technology is the easy part. The system might be the complicated part to start out. So, and my next question brings me a little more to maybe the money. How do we fund all these efforts? Because they can cost money, or maybe they don't cost as much money. But also, how do these systems help us fund better infrastructure in general? Once we are talking about the smart city and transparency and digitalization, how have these tools helped improve the infrastructure, which Titi was talking about, as well as being lacking in many of our countries? Sometimes basic infrastructure from streets and water and even the public services, safety. How have these technologies or platforms helped fund these other basic citizen needs as well, right? And I'll leave this as an open question if for whoever wants to share maybe a little bit of the experience.
Yeah, so I received a question relating with investment. So how mobilize money and how make the business. So yeah, that is big question, big hurdle any city to overcome. But I'd like to emphasize one thing here is that smart city or digital government or anything take long time. A long-term perspective. So Korea is very advanced in terms of e-government. So, but you should know, Korea started the e-government building around mid-1980s. It takes almost more than 30 years ago. Smart city will take another 30 years. So first thing we need to do is to make long-term plan and more importantly, make a concrete architecture. Architecture means planning the basic principle and basic rules. And normal planning, so plan details, the plan system or plan service. But those investment or development should be based on common architecture. If we have a common architecture, then we can take long-term perspective or a long-term approach. Another thing I'd like to address is that the urban infrastructure could be money source for the government. So, for instance, the current street. So it is difficult to charge. So even normal street. So we can charge the drivers using highway, but not normal street. But we're gonna have more and more new technology. So driverless car or semi-autonomous car those technologies need public infrastructure or public data. So the city government, if city government develop so smart infrastructure, it could be smart street light, it could be smart light or smart sensors, then city government can make money, make revenue with those infrastructure, because now more and more technology and services will rely on public data and public infrastructure. So many cities want to install 5G communication network. So if we apply traditional approach, then 5G antennas should be built by telecom companies. But for 5G, so the number of antennas or the number of facilities are so dense. We need so many stations. So now more and more cities so have new business model that city install 5G facility and then city make revenue by selling that 5G infrastructure to telephone companies. So it's time we need to think about new business model and new investment model for smart city or for other smart technologies.
Thank you very much. That's great. We are running a little bit out of time, but perhaps if each of you could share maybe a closing thought with our audience and any words of encouragement or how to start this process that you would like to share with mayors and urban thinkers and doers from Latin America and from around the world. What would be maybe a couple of words you could share with us? So if maybe Titi, you want to start?
Oh yeah, go first. My mic is on, right? I actually agree on a lot of points from Professor Juan. I think the smart city itself, like, should be as a platform. Like, they have to think like a platform. They have to be open, and they have to let and allow like people around in the city to help actually share their thought and move forward. Even the business have to be able to kind of like plug in and kind of move that city together. Also have a great business model to support it, to make it grow sustainably. And in terms of smart city, when they're focusing on the platform, it means that they're not fighting with the local business, not fighting with the startup or SME or anything. They talk to everyone, they're open, they find the best thing for the people in the city. And the city itself, like, finally, if the platform is ready, they can be creative. They can find out a little bit more, like they can come up with a new business model to actually work with the city to connect to the people in the city itself. So I would see smart city is the city that actually now come back to the hands of the citizen. And each city probably has its own idea and has its own way to run. And that is the word smart city for me.
Thank you very much. Federico?
Well, Marco, I mean, very briefly, I would say that technology nowadays is going through exponential changes, and that opens a lot of doors for progress. I'm sure in Latin America, finally, we will make good use of all these positive trends. And again, like I said before, I think we have to realize that we don't have the monopoly of problems, and there are, let's say, lots of solutions available nowadays for the problems that we have. We just have to press politicians, create a current of opinion in society that aims to these goals, and the solutions will come.
Thank you. And Dr. Juan?
Yes, I'd like to I'd like to say this is that most valuable resource in 21st century is data. I think everyone agree with that. But we have many data for transaction, for processing, so processing the process. But in many cases, most city and most government don't have enough data for decision. For make the better decision. So, but data take long time to accumulate. So, smart city is platform. Platform is for data. Smart cities platform is for data. Eventually, smart city is to create more and more data and to make the best use of such data. So I want to any cities start even if they think the smart city is too big thing, too difficult for them to start, then just to try to create more and more data. So if any city try to create more data, then they will realize why platform is so valuable, so important, why citywide, the holistic design and architecture is are necessary. So start from data and to and with the augmented city or better city. Okay.
Well, I really like this. So if I could maybe summarize what I've learned from you all today, and this is something I hope people can rewatch it a couple times because there's so much information. But my summary takeaway is that we can use the technology from smart cities to make smarter governments, and that we need to look at startups as our allies, not something to fight against, but something to help for. And as Federico said, sometimes the most basic thing we need to start from is to just say, let's do it. And we need leadership who is willing to start the conversation and look at the long-term vision to where we want to finally arrive at a smart city. So I appreciate all of your times. We're all in very different time zones. I think this has been a very, very productive dialogue for the Smart Cities Week. And thank you to the Frederick Naumann Foundation and Saving Earth and the organizers of the event for hosting us. Thank you very much, everyone. Muy bien, excelente. Pues creo que una excelente manera de concluir, agradecer de nuevo a Federico, a Titi, al doctor Juan, que creo que tienen muchísimo que aportar en esos temas digitales, que es lo que muchos nos imaginamos, sobre todo en el tema de las ciudades. Ojalá les haya servido pues 5 días intensísimos de conocimiento, cada uno con su propia temática, y de esta pues gran manera de concluir. Le paso entonces la palabra a Elizabeth Meigler para que pueda pasar a concluir el evento.
Muchas gracias, Marco. Pues en la Fundación Friedrich Naumann para la Libertad y Saving Earth nos sentimos muy entusiasmados de haber realizado esta Smart Cities Week en este octubre urbano con motivo del Día Internacional de las Ciudades. Con la Smart Cities Week impulsamos y profundizamos el diálogo de expertos y alcaldes precisamente en torno a ciudades que promueven y facilitan el emprendimiento, ciudades que tienen matrices de movilidad que combinan distintos medios de transporte motorizado y no motorizado, ciudades accesibles urbanísticamente y financieramente hablando, ciudades resilientes capaces de amortiguar los efectos del cambio climático, y pues finalmente ciudades que, como hoy vimos, fomentan la transparencia en procesos gubernamentales en favor de mayor eficiencia, productividad y participación ciudadana. Nos da muchísimo gusto haber contado con la participación de todos ustedes, nuestra audiencia, a lo largo de toda la semana. Muchas gracias por participar con sus preguntas y comentarios pues, para nuestros distinguidos panelistas, a quienes también agradezco que se hayan conectado para compartir su vasto conocimiento desde México, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Perú, Argentina, el Kosovo, Tailandia y Corea. Tuvimos pues expertos de muchas partes del mundo gracias a la digitalización. Como ya comentábamos antes, esto ahora es mucho más sencillo de realizar. Agradecer, por supuesto, también a nuestros moderadores que condujeron cada una de las sesiones de la Smart Cities Week y a Saving Earth por la colaboración en este evento. Finalmente, muchas gracias a mis colegas de la Fundación Naumann en México y Centroamérica por apoyar la organización y comunicación de la Smart Cities Week. Sin ustedes esto no habría sido posible. Igualmente gracias a nuestra agencia de comunicación que estuvo pendiente de muchos detalles. Y deseo a todos quienes nos acompañan aquí en el Zoom y a través de Facebook Live, que nos estuvieron siguiendo, pues que tengan un lindo fin de semana y no olviden seguirnos en redes para conocer más de nuestro trabajo en los meses que faltan este año y a futuro. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Elizabeth, también. Mientras van saliendo, pues me despido. Como Saving Earth ha sido un gusto y un honor poder colaborar con la Frederick Naumann. Hemos podido traer una semana muy intensa de muchos paneles. Si no los pudieron ver todos, no se preocupen, están ahí en línea. Denles un repeat, denles compartir. Hagan que esta información llegue. Pocas veces se puede tener una agenda de componentes del nivel que tuvimos, tan nutrida, tan llena de cosas, y sabiendo, como dijimos al principio, para 2050 se calcula que el 70 o el 80%, depende de quién da los números, van a estar viviendo en las ciudades. Entonces, hoy tenemos que empezar a afrontar los retos. Les invitamos de verdad a que todo lo van a encontrar en Facebook, en Twitter, y pues por aquí los vamos a estar esperando, los vamos a esperar que compartan todo esto y no dejen de estar atentos a todo lo que vamos trayendo, porque hay mucha agenda. Manténganse sanos, cuídense, usen cubrebocas, y muchas gracias a todo el equipo de moderadores, panelistas y al equipo de la Frederick Naumann, porque sin ustedes no hubiéramos podido salir adelante con tan ambiciosa agenda, que creo que nos deja muy bien preparados para los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible, y pronto nos veremos por aquí. No olviden dar